Hey guys, Vincent back with another video for Tales Coffee, and today I'm going to talk about the coffee dripper that started my coffee journey off, and that is the Chemex. So back in 2016, I opened up a coffee shop called Febrew, and that's actually when I started to learn coffee as well. So, maybe the coffees weren't the best back then, but I did actually start on the Chemex. And as some of you guys might know, I actually don't like the Chemex very much right now. I don't even use it. I haven't used it to serve a customer in 3 years already. So yeah, in this video, I'm actually gonna talk about what I like and what I dislike about the Chemex. So before we get into the video, if you love weekly coffee content, make sure to subscribe to our channel. And if you wanna see my favorite equipment and my favorite coffees, go onto my website, talescoffee.com, to find the coffees I roast as well. Now back to the video. As you can see, we've got ourselves the Chemex here, and a little history behind it is it's actually designed by a German chemist. And he's an award-winning one. He actually had over 300 different patents for all sorts of products. He just wanted to make things that were functional and great looking at the same time, and actually the Chemex was one of them. For the Chemex, there's actually 3 different sizes. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure there's only 3. There's a smaller one, which is a 3-cup one. This is the 6 to 8-cup one, and then we've got ourselves the 8 to 10-cup one, and that one is just pure glass with a handle. And then we've got the 3-cup one, which looks similar to this, but it's smaller and it has a different angle for the mouth shape. So it's a lot sharper. So it does brew a little bit differently. So when we're talking about the mechanics behind this dripper in particular, it might be a little bit different for those of you that actually use the 3-cup Chemex. Now, as you can see, it's got that beautiful hourglass shape that it is known for. It has this spout right over here on the side, and it has a wooden clasp. And this dripper actually has no grooves, which is quite unique because the other drippers tend to almost all have something to prop up the filter. So let's quickly move into the paper filters. When we brew with the Chemex, there's actually 2 different kinds of paper filters we use. There's the unbleached one, and then there's a bleached one, which I don't have right now, but I actually always started on the unbleached ones, and I've always been using on it. So to put the filters in, you actually just open it up like this, and then you slide it in here. So you'll notice that on one side it's going to be thicker than the other side. I've always got the thicker side where the spout is to prevent as much side channeling as possible. But the thicker side will now have 3-ply, as you can see, and then the thinner side will have the 1-ply. Now, some people may say that there might be uneven balances in it, but I think it's actually fine because of how thick the paper filter naturally is. Unlike the Hario V60s or the Kalita Waves or the AeroPress, this is actually a very, very thick filter paper. So we're gonna get one of the cleanest cups of coffee from any other pour-over drippers. So let's get into the pros and cons of this dripper. So we're gonna start with the pros first. Guys, let's be honest here. This is probably one of the best looking drippers on the market. It is a singular piece. It's not complicated. You don't need an extra server for it. It's a 1-piece carafe and a dripper pour over at the same time. So really easy to use, actually. It's also really beautiful because of this wood accent. I think that the 8 to 10 cup one does not have the wood on it because it has a handle instead. So that might not be as great looking, but it's also really multifunctional. This also serves really well as a wine decanter. So if you have a bunch of friends over and you guys want to drink a nice wine, red wine goes in here really well. Decants, looks great, multifunctional. And with the size of this dripper, you can actually brew cups of coffee for 8 people. That's actually insane because there's no other dripper, except for the larger version, that can brew up to 8 people. And so this is great for parties, no matter what you're serving, coffee, wine, water. It's just a great looking dripper that's multifunctional. So for the things I don't like about the Chemex, it is that it is actually too big. When I brew coffees, I tend to just generally brew for 1 to 2 people. And even when I'm brewing for 2 people, I still brew them 2 separate glasses of coffee. And that is because when you're brewing with a larger dripper, you tend to be pouring from a much higher height. Now imagine if I were to be pouring from here and the coffee bed only goes to here, you've got yourself quite a distance, which causes a huge amount of agitation, and it causes it to drain a lot slower. And on top of that, because there are no grooves to hold up this thick paper, there's going to be a restricted water flow. And when I say that, it means it's just gonna flow really slowly. So when you flow really slowly, you're gonna have a very strong and possibly over extracted coffee. So you may, actually not even maybe, you're going to be extracting a lot of flavors that are probably fairly undesirable. And then the paper filter being so thick, it also creates a restricted flow rate. And so you're gonna double down on how slow it flows. We're gonna be expecting like a 4-minute brew even for like a single cup. I guess we could use larger grind size, but as I've always said, larger grinds, they don't extract at the same rate because in coarser grinds, you're gonna have more microfines. So unless you're sifting out everything, your grind size is very uneven, which means you're gonna get over-extracted little fines and then you're gonna get under-extracted larger fines. So for me, the Chemex has not always been the most pleasant to brew with, but it is the dripper I did start with. So I'm gonna show you guys a demo of what I did when I first started. I used a slightly coarser grind and I did larger batches. So we're using 25 grams of beans today, and then we'll be doing a 1:15 ratio, so it's 375 grams of water. So on the Chemex, because of the drain time, I actually did do a bypass back then. So it was 350 grams of water going in and 25 grams of water as the bypass. But tonight I'll be doing 300 grams of water into the dripper and then a 75-gram bypass.
So I know you guys hate Vincent's loud intro, but you love his single pour technique. So we did the one thing we could think of as a struggling coffee company. We came out with a coffee called the single pour coffee. This is a brand new flavor, all right? So if you've ever used Vincent's technique, you better buy this coffee, all right? We're struggling out here. And you know, it's called the single pour. So if you're single, you're ready to mingle. So you better mingle with this, all right? Check out tailscoffee.com. And also, free shipping on all bundles this month. It's June.
So we're gonna start with the demo. 300 grams of water here. We're gonna add the bypass after once I get back to talk to you guys on the other side of the counter. So we're gonna start by adding 25 grams of coffee beans. I'm gonna lift this up after I set the grinds, but we're gonna, as always, you want to set the grinds like this. And we're gonna take a quick look. The grind size, okay? So it's a lot more coarse. We've made it more coarse for everybody, just because the Chemex does flow a lot slower. So we're gonna, as always, start in the middle, and 3, 2, 1. Now you're gonna notice because of the larger, coarser grind size that the first drip's gonna come out a lot earlier. That's to be expected. We're also pouring from a much higher height. You're gonna see that there's a lot more of the larger chunks floating up. So we're gonna work our way out as always. It's still the single pour. I'm using the Time War kettle because it's more vertical and you get a nicer stream from a higher height. So you can see that the white stuff in the middle has little grinds floating, so we're gonna start pushing to the sides. And once we get to the sides, I've run out of water. So we're just gonna give that a quick stir, get everything saturated. And that is how I make my Chemex. Well, without the bypass. So before we dispose of the grinds and everything, we're gonna take a quick look at the grinds. Look at that. So you can see that they're still quite granular. That's because we want it to be nice, a little bit quicker. But the problem is when you're using a coarser grind, you can see that some of the stuff floats, even with a flush finish. It's because they're just not fully saturated, and that's what's sitting at top. But if we kind of dig our way deeper, you're gonna see that it's quite actually like saturated. The smaller chunks are at the bottom. Oh, my head, I guess my head's in the way. But we've got smaller chunks at the bottom, and so we know that most of the flavors are actually out of the smaller chunks, but the larger ones, you can see that it's kind of somewhat pasty in the middle already. And the larger chunks will just be a little bit under extracted. If I were to use any finer grinds because of the paper filter itself and the way that this is shaped, we're gonna take quite a bit longer than I would like to, and we're gonna start extracting quite a bit more of the drier and less flavorful flavors. So yeah, let's get to the other side. I'm gonna do a bypass and we're gonna quickly talk about the taste of the coffee. So we're back on this side. I've got my coffee on my left, got the bypass on the right, and my trusty origami mug. I actually love these mugs, by the way. So we're gonna pour the coffee into here. Isn't that just a beautiful stream? Oh yeah, it is a bigger cup of coffee. Does my bypass fit? Ah, should. And then we get our bypass in here. Oh, look at that. What a perfect cup of coffee. Just the right amount. So we're gonna take a sip. Now, today I actually brewed with the new coffee, the single pour. We're expecting a much more balanced flavor profile, but with the Chemex, because we have some slightly over-extracted grinds and some under-extracted one, we do have a little bit of imbalance. It's still got a nice sweetness to it. It's a lot more lighter than I would have expected, and that is probably because the filter paper, it's just super thick, so it absorbs a lot of the flavors, a lot of the oils. It is very clean, very crisp. Honestly, it's not a bad cup of coffee. I think it's actually pretty good. So like in general, this dripper is not terrible. It is just a big dripper, but there is going to be some imbalance in flavors because of the grind size. Personally, this is not my favorite dripper, and that is because on a day-to-day basis, I actually still only like to brew 1 cup of coffee at a time. However, if you actually have friends and family that you live with and you like to brew for, then maybe this dripper would be perfect for you. This dripper is probably the best dripper at brewing larger amounts of coffee. The other drippers are hard pressed to even hit like 4 cups at a time, and this one will easily do that and still have a great cup of coffee. I hope you guys enjoyed the video and learned a little bit on how I like to use my Chemex. But you know what'd be cool? We actually have an Instagram account as well, tails.coffee. So it'd be cool if you guys followed and then tagged us in your story on how you like to brew the Chemex. We'd like to learn a little bit from you guys as well and see how we can learn to improve our technique. You know, I'm not always saying my technique is the perfect one. Show us your grind size, show us how you like to pour, and we're gonna be able to maybe figure out something even better for the Chemex. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye.